What's up, fandom? So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Song of the South. And before we get started, I just want to say that I completely agree with Disney having never released this film for home access in the United States. On the surface, it's just your standard Disney film, cute animal characters, songs you can sing along with, and a decent enough story. But when you have the context of everything that's behind it, the slavery, Southern life back then, it's really more sinister than I think they intended at the time, or at least I hope they intended at the time. And this movie does not need to be any child's favorite Disney film or anyone's favorite Disney film for that matter. So let's just go ahead and hop into Song of the South.
It is absolute
Fam.
pandemonium here.
Alright, so the observant viewer might be asking themselves at this point, JT, if Song of the South has been banned from the United States, it's not on Disney Plus, how did you even see it in the first place to review it? So I got my hands on a bootleg copy. This came out of Dahlonega, Georgia, www.classicreels.com. If you really just want to see this thing for yourself, I go there because they seem to have copies. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, Song of the South on the surface, very much just your typical Disney film, complete with the book opening, if you know what I'm talking about, storybook opening to start the story. It has that. And then it gets into more of classic Southern things. The kid has the stereotypical black nanny, and the parents are just kind of city slickers. The dad has a job going in Atlanta, and he sends his wife and son down south, probably somewhere like Macon, Georgia, or something like that, just to go live on the old family plantation. And when we get there, that's when things start to take a turn. Really, when things took a turn for the worst, in my opinion, was when we hear the first Uncle Remus story. He's just telling Johnny about, the good old days, back when I was a slave, when we weren't in the fields or the master wasn't beating our ass, we had ourselves zippity doo dah days. Alright, but here's the deal. If you know anything about slavery, not just in America, but anywhere in the world, there's no such thing as a zippity doo dah day when you're an enslaved person. And that's really the starting point for my discomfort with Song of the South. As the film goes on, you see more of just the coded language of racism that's probably, not even probably, definitely accurate for how the South would have been at that time post Civil War. But here's the thing. Some of you may want to argue that, yeah, that's an accurate depiction of Southern life. This movie could be a good point to jump off and have the discussions about the way things used to be, how we can improve and make society better. But with this being a Disney film, there's always going to be that element of nostalgia attached to it. And this is something you see even with Splash Mountain. You can't really talk about Song of the South without bringing up Splash Mountain at some point. So for the most part, no one has seen this film in the United States since the 1970s. But Splash Mountain was introduced in 1989 in Disneyland. And then by 92, it was in Disney World, Disneyland Tokyo. And people got this attachment to a movie they never saw based on this beloved ride with great music, lovable characters, and they didn't really know the story that goes along with it. So now you're probably asking yourself, well, if Disney separated themselves from this film in the early 80s and then Splash Mountain came out in 89, why would they theme a ride after a film they're working so hard to distance themselves from? And really, in my opinion, what it comes down to is
Money!
and opportunity in a sense. So Disney really wanted a log flume ride at their theme park to add some thrill to what they considered to be a pretty child-friendly park at the time, tried to get more teenagers excited about going to Disneyland and Disney World. So they introduced this log flume ride, and they need some type of Disney theming to go along with it. Song of the South, you have Chicopee Hill up high on the hill. What's the one thing you need in a log flume ride? A high hill to drop the log from. So there goes that. And you also have America Sings, which was a ride that had shut down in years before, but they had all of these animatronics left. And the lead animator for Song of the South was this guy named Mark Davis. And he was also head of design for the animatronics used in America Sings. So you have this shutdown ride with a bunch of animatronics that fit the character style of this movie that has a hill in the film. You want to make this log flume ride. So really, it's kind of the cheap way out. And I think if Disney could go back, hopefully they wouldn't make Splash Mountain a Song of the South ride to begin with. But the opportunity was there, and unfortunately, that's what happened. You got Splash Mountain with a Song of the South theming. So now you're probably wondering what I think of Disney deciding to reskin Splash Mountain in the Princess and the Frog theme that they're planning on doing in the future. And it should come as no surprise that I'm a huge fan of it. I think it's going to make perfect sense, especially in Disneyland, where the ride is right next to New Orleans Square. So now you can have New Orleans Square right next to the Bayou section. Change Critter Country to the Bayou section. It blends perfectly with the Louisiana theming. But just like many of you, I have, wonderful memories of being a kid, going to Disney World, being super excited of riding Splash Mountain. The Disney storybook that I grew up with as a really little kid, it had one of the stories from Song of the South, the one about the tar baby and Burr Rabbit getting stuck in that. But I'm not a child anymore, and I know the context that goes along with Song of the South, and it's definitely time that this movie gets distanced. And I think really Disney should go even further and stop releasing the movie in other countries, and this reskin is definitely a step in the right direction, to say the least. So some of you may think at this point that I'm just making this video to hate on Song of the South and praise Disney for choosing to reskin the ride in a Princess and the Frog theme. And I am. Don't get me wrong, I definitely am. I think it's the right choice 100%. But coming in, I didn't necessarily want to hate Song of the South. I thought maybe the movie was a bit misunderstood and it wasn't really as bad as the rumors I'd heard about it. But I was proven wrong. Those rumors are 100% right. And you also have to think, Disney distanced themselves from this movie back in the 80s. The 80s. Alright, well that does it for this video. It kind of was a bit more serious, I guess, than some of the other ones I've done. But I wanted to talk about it. I had the opportunity to actually see Song of the South, and I wanted to share my thoughts on that film and what I think of the coming reskin of the ride with y'all. So as always, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and stay nerdy, everybody.